Okay, hi everyone. Let's wait a couple of 1-2 minutes because we are seeing a lot of people joining. Um, let's accept everyone and then we can start. Okay, I think we can start now. Um, Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the webinar. From risk to resilience, addressing GBV in disaster risk governance. I am Pritha Khanal, your moderator for today, and this is a part of a webinar series on gender responsive DRR that we initiated last year with an objective to promote and contribute to the implementation of Sendai Gender Action Plan, Sendai GAP. Last year, we conducted sessions focused on gender responsive anticipatory actions, disaggregated data, and also DRR financing. And this year we are continuing the series, and this is the first session where we will discuss about gender-based violence in disaster risk governance. This contributes to the key objective 9 of Sendai GAP that talks about ensuring access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights and prevention and response to gender-based violence in the context of disaster. This webinar is organized by the Gender Stakeholder Group for Asia Pacific Partnership for DRR, jointly with All India Disaster Mitigation Institute. The Gender Stakeholder Group for Asia Pacific DRR, we also call it GSHG in short, is one of the 10 stakeholders groups convened by the UNDRR in 2012 for the gender responsive implementation of Sendai framework. And Duryog Nivaran, we are a South Asian network for disaster risk reduction, and we have been acting as the chair of GSHG since 2012. Duryog Nivaran is also currently implementing a project called SIDRA with the support of SIDA, Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, who has supported this webinar, and we would like to acknowledge their support. In today's session, we will be discussing on how disasters and climate-related hazards exacerbate different forms of gender-based violence and analyze the structural, social, and institutional drivers that heighten GBV risk in disaster settings. As we know that whenever any disaster or crisis hits, they worsen the existing inequities and vulnerabilities in society. The risk of gender-based violence also increases as disasters expose the structural inequalities and unequal power relations. And violence and dominance is also exhibited in many different forms, not necessarily just physical or sexual. I have a picture here with me. I would like to quickly share a picture. Can I request my team to display the picture, please? Yes, here you can see how different multiple layers and multiple forms of violence are experienced by women, girls, or gender diverse groups, right? So, be it anger or gaslighting or screaming, mansplaining, body shaming, restrictions, all of them are various forms that we need to address when we are talking about GBV in general and also during disasters. So, and yet, however, GBV remains one of the most overlooked aspects in the aftermath of disaster due to shifting priorities or limitations of resources or like general lack of awareness. Right. So, on today's session, we'll explore how can development practitioners and policymakers can integrate GBV in their DRR plans and efforts. And also, as we know, Sri Lanka is currently grappling with the aftermath of a devastating cyclone that occurred in late November, Cyclone Ditwa, that affected approximately 2.3 million populations. And we hope that our session today will offer some insight to help make their post-disaster response gender responsive and also GBV responsive, right? So we'll have our members sharing different tools and successful approaches that can be used to address, prevent, and mitigate the gender-based violence. And today's session will be for 90 minutes. We also have someone from UN Women who will be sharing their remarks, and then we'll open the floor for discussion and your question and answers. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite the first speaker for the session, Mr. Mihir Bhatt. From All India Disaster Mitigation Institute (AIDMI), who will be sharing about how GBV and disasters inter intersect with each other and highlight some of the research and experience of working in the issue. Mr. Bhatt leads AIDMI and is a senior practitioner in climate resilience, disaster risk reduction, and humanitarian governance. Since 1989, he has worked with and for disaster affected thousands of women and over 120 women organizations in India and South Asia through action research, community engagement, and policy support. He is currently leading Cooling for Extreme Heat by financing loss and damage and anticipatory action in 11 cities with thousands of small businesses. One third of them are women. And Mr. Bhatt is also one of the steering committee members of Duryog Nivaran. So, warm welcome here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Please don't say that. My name is Mihir, as said, and I work with All India Disaster Mitigation Institute and is very proud to be member of the Ryog Nivaran. And of course, the group, gender stakeholder group, which is doing wonderful work. I must thank you, the gender stakeholder group of the Asia Pacific Partnership for DRR and also Duryog Nivaran for convening this discussion. Putting gender take based violence at the center of disaster risk governance is not optional. It is urgent, especially during this humanitarian reset in Asia Pacific. I wonder if you want to put the slides. I can go. Meanwhile, go ahead. Um, I speak from All India Disaster Mitigation Institute's experience. I speak directly about why disaster escalates gender-based violence and what this demands from preparedness, response, and recovery. And I speak it from both sides in terms of action, what we actually have implemented on the ground, and also in terms of learning and lessons learned from our own work and from the work of others. So what is AIDMI? It is where the risk meets the inequality between the gender, how they are affected and how they are responded. Next, please. Um, that's about AIDMI. For nearly 4 decades, we have worked across South Asia and the Asia Pacific on earthquakes, floods, cyclones, pandemics, and now extreme heat. Across all hazards, one truth is constant. Disasters do not create vulnerability. They expose it, they amplify it, and they also amplify, therefore, gender-based violence. Risk is often shared. The protection from gender-based violence is not. These are the two truths we have found from our work and from our work in the region. Women, girls, gender diverse persons, migrants, people with disabilities, and workers in informal livelihoods live with inequality long before a hazard strikes. For AIDMI, protection, dignity, and accountability are not adds-on. They show whether disaster risk reduction works for the last poor working woman. If the disaster recovery is good, but gender-based violence has not been protected, that recovery is not good enough. That's what our experience is, and that's what we believe. Gender-based violence in disasters is a repeated pattern. And this is what we've seen during tsunami. This is what we've also seen in our most recent work on extreme heat. Across Asia Pacific, after floods, droughts, cyclones, earthquakes, heat waves, and health emergencies, one pattern repeats. And let me tell you that pattern. Gender-based violence increases during and after disaster. There is not a single example where gender-based violence has not increased or at least has not come up repeatedly in the response. Yet the system rarely treats gender-based violence as a disaster impact. Next slide, please. Assessments exclude it. Um, Budgets ignore that. Accountability misses it. We label gender-based violence as secondary or social very often, but survivors live with it for years, long after relief ends and responders leave the site. And that's the reality. Why gender-based violence escalates in disasters, and this slide shows five diverse matters are there. Let's go to the reasons. Next, please. First, and this is what we found in our work across India-Nepal border, inequality under stress. Disasters hit unequal societies. Societies are not equal and disasters hit that. Women have less access to income and asset. They carry unpaid work. They have limited voice and mobility. When disasters strike, stress removes fragile buffers. Violence surfaces. Disasters do not cause it. They expose this violence, which is there inherent, existing in the society. That's the first. Next, please. Next. Second one. Causal factor second. The second most important factor that we have found is that the systems fail. During disasters, police, justice, and health system weaken. Women's networks break. In evacuation centers across Asia Pacific, women report fear, harassment, and insecurity. This is not accidental. Shelters ignore safety, lighting, toilet, sleeping spaces, and reporting systems decide whether violence happens or stops. That's a causal factor second. The third, next slide, please, is that the displacement strips control. What happens in the camps, temporary shelters, host communities, and informal statements reduce privacy and autonomy of the people inside the camp, women especially. AIDMI's post-disaster work shows overcrowding increases violence and silences reporting. Displacement moves people. It also shifts power, often against women and girls. Next slide, please. Um, as you could see, after cyclones, droughts, and heat waves, incomes disappear, stress enters homes, violence rises. This does not excuse abuse. It shows why gender-based violence prevention must sit inside economic recovery and not addition to that, not after that. Restore assets alone, and violence becomes the hidden cost of successful recovery. When economic recovery doesn't address gender-based violence, it may become a successful recovery, but its impact doesn't last very long. Next slide. And this is the fifth reason that extreme heat drives everyday violence. Heat waves are now seasonal crisis. In 11 Indian cities, AIDMI sees how heat income loss, overcrowded housing, and care burdens combined. Domestic violence rises, harassment increases in informal workplaces. Heat rarely triggers emergencies. Its gender-based violence impact are predictable and ignored. Gender-based violence must become an anticipatory action priority in all cases. So the blind spot, next please. So the blind spot is that the data uh, and silence. That is, gender-based violence because institutions do not see it. There is data, but we don't see that it's a silence data. Sex, age, and disability disaggregated data is missing from assessments, from recovery plans, and early warning systems. What we do not measure, we do not fund. What we do not fund, we do not address. So recovery is declared complete. Survivors carry the cost alone on their own beyond the recovery. Therefore, that recovery is unrecovery. Next slide. Um, what this means for disaster risk reduction. This message from South Asia to Asia Pacific is clear. Gender-based violence is not a side effect of disasters. It is a governance outcome. If shelters ignore safety, if recovery ignores women's livelihoods, if early warnings ignore care burdens, if resilience finance ignores accountability, as we know, then we do not reduce risk. We shift risk onto women's bodies and women's lives. I'd like to repeat that we do not reduce risk, we shift risk onto women's bodies and lives. So DRR minus GBV is only transfer of risk from the society and system to a particular section of the society, women in this case, and not only to them at large, but to their bodies and their lives. So I'd like to close. Next slide, please. I'd like to close by saying that anticipatory action is not only about forecast and stockpile, and we'll see very good examples in subsequent presentations here. It is about whether a woman feels safer or more at risk when a disaster strikes. Let us be clear, and let me say that gender-based violence in disasters is not accidental. It is a foreseeable consequence of unequal systems that fail under stress. When disaster governance ignores gendered risk, violence becomes part of the emergency. If disaster risk reduction cannot guarantee dignity and protection, the risk reduction is incomplete. AIDMI calls on Asia Pacific actors, all of you and all of you work with Duryog Nivaran, we call on to govern risk differently. So disasters do not deepen injustice, but become turning points for safety, dignity, and justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Butt. That was really insightful and informative. And like you highlighted, various structural issues or causal factors that enhance the risk of GBV and how uh, DRR efforts or DRR plans should reflect or respond to gender based violence for a very comprehensive recovery. Thank you so much. And like rightly said, there are now forthcoming speakers will be sharing about some of the tools and framework that they have successfully used in their works, which can, support to make DRR response very gender responsive and also address GBV. So I'd like to invite our next speaker to present one of the tools that they have used and they have developed and used. Um, Ms. Savini Srikumar, she is the technical advisor, gender, disability and inclusion at World Vision Sri Lanka. And she will be presenting a framework for the prevention, mitigation, and response to GBV in emergencies or fragile context. So, Ms. Savini is a graduate of the University of Colombo, where she earned her master's in international relations. And her dedication to advocating for women and children began in 2011 while working on Afghanistan Women Shelter Fund and Afghanistan Children Support Center Fund under the Colombo Plan. Since then, she has continued contributing on the projects focused on GBV, specifically in emergency victim support, service provider coordination, and capacity building. Savini has experience working with children, youth, and marginalized women, as well as engaging men and boys in awareness creation and advocacy efforts. And currently, she is employed at World Vision Lanka, where she is involved in gender mainstreaming in all grants project and area program on women's economic empowerment initiatives, leadership development, sexual and reproductive health, and capacity buildings. So, Ms. Savini, a warm welcome and over to you for the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Prita, for the introduction and the opportunity for the World Vision Lanka to present in this forum. Can I share my slides now?
Yes.
Can you see my slides now? Okay, thank you. So before I start the presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction about the World Vision Lanka. World Vision Lanka was established in 1977 as an humanitarian organization. So World Vision considered as one of the well-established humanitarian organization in the world, which work on the disaster response and building disaster resilience as well. So currently, World Vision Lanka is working in 31 area programs similar to divisional secretariat divisions. We are covering 16 districts in the country. We have two modalities when we come to implementation. We are working through the sponsorship program. So these programs we are implementing through the area programs, and it is funding from the World Vision support officers. And other modality is the grant project with the specific subject areas. So before going to the framework, I would like to say something about World Vision humanitarian policy positioning on gender in humanitarian action. We are focusing on three main areas in the policy positioning: women and girls' voice leadership, equitable access to gender response. One second. Gender services and assistance, prevention, mitigation, and response to all forms of gender-based violence. Can you still see my screen?
No. We can see your video, but not the slides.
Okay, very sorry about that.
Yes, now we can see.
So our main focus on child development. So we are mainly working with the most vulnerable children, their families and communities. So therefore, World Vision essentials are for child protection. So here also we are looking into three main areas. We are strengthening the families to act as first line of protection and care for children. And the second one, empowering children to protect themselves and help protect one another. We are having child societies, child clubs, and we are having curriculums developed on this area. So this is one of the large areas we are covering under child protection programming. And also, we are working with the faith-based communities on child protection. So we are also having World Vision guiding principle. I'm not going to go through the whole areas because we all are familiar with that. Let me take you to three areas of the GBV framework. The first one is about the mainstreaming GBV across sectors adhering to the IAC GBV guidelines. So under this, we are looking into the main three areas: sectoral programs, survivor-centered approach and referral pathways and complaint mechanisms. So all our sectoral programs, which are child protection, livelihood, advocacy, gender, DRR, also addressing GBV in disasters under the prevention and mitigation. We directly work with the village level DRR planning as a stakeholder with the government and other stakeholders. Also, we are working with livelihood-related DRR programming and child-centered DRR planning, and also anticipatory action plans. Uh, there's a committee called Village Level Child Development Committee, which is coming under the government initiative, but we support with the government and under the stakeholder to form these committees in the village levels, because these committees directly address the child abuse cases in the community, and they report it to the service providers. When it comes to the national level, we are having national action plan to address the HGBV, and also we are having a national forum against HGBV, which World Vision is representing as a member there. And these HGBV forums are in some district level as well as divisional level. Wherever it's existing in our area programming, we go and coordinate with them, and we raise the issues in the ground level as well as to trying to find the solution with others. When it comes to the complaint mechanisms, in our area program level also, we are maintaining a complaint mechanism. We are having complaint boxes, hotline numbers as well. But whenever we are having awareness programs with the community, we always make sure to make aware them about the available services on GBVV. And also during the relief and response, we mostly provide the water facilities, toilet facilities, nutrition packages, and also dignity packages and all. So it's starting from the cooked food items to non-cooked food items. So we are working through the request to the government sector, and we are working according to the standard at the national and international level. So we do regular safe center visits to confirm that there are no issues for GBV under GBV, and also we provided certain non-food items that for which can use for the safety in the safe spaces for partitioning and other things. And after the recent Ditwa cyclone disaster, UN OCHA has established a data system called 5W. So we and all other stakeholders are providing the response and relief details through that database. And it's really helpful for us to coordinate and jointly plan together and implementing activities in the ground level together. So under the protection cluster, they have also opened a subcluster for GBV. So we are representing in the subcluster meeting as well. And during the distributions also, we make sure to showcase the hotline numbers, help line numbers for children and women for their protection. And also we are also giving other necessary information related to the ground level. And when the systems are failed after a disaster, because we have experienced that during the recent disasters, we cross-check what services are not available, and we report back to the government sector on those areas. So the second item is engaging boys and men for GBV prevention and gender equality. So first of all, we admit that men and boys also can be GBV survivors in our relief and response areas. And World Vision Lanka is working on long-term program with boys and men on we call it Men Care program, which address the GBV as well. So through promoting these kind of project models, we are expecting to promote men and boys as role models to address GBV issues at the ground level. And also we engage them in from the vulnerability mapping to village level mapping and executing as well. And when it comes to the grants project, specifically, there are grant project asked for the activities to engage communities like forum theater and street dramas. We make sure that men and boys are also taking part of that. And the third one is about the work with religious and community leaders. We have a long history with working with the faith-based organizations and community leaders. So especially through our advocacy program, we discuss about the village level issues. So these are the one of the areas that we are discussing related to GBV and DRR issues. So through that, we make awareness for them about the issues, and the laws and policies and standards are available in the national level and the international level. And we build partnership with the faith-based organizations for people with disabilities, organizations who are working with women and girls. And also we are making awareness when it comes to the community leaders on the attitudes toward to the survivors. So this is one of the crucial matters for the survivors once they come back to the society. The fourth key area is ensure capacity of the staff and the strengthen the community. So we are having several training programs for the field level staff on GBV and the safeguarding principle and PSEA. And we time to time conduct the refresher programs, especially after the recent disaster also, we had immediately had another training series for our staff. And we are having a national level disaster management team in our office who are representing each department. So we are giving the national level training for them each year on DRR. It includes the DRR and GBV.
Savini, I would just like to alert about the timing.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So under the grants project, we are having a specific project to train female farmers on DRR and about the early warnings. And when it comes to the last key area, women and children, we involve in school DRR programming. We are training children on child centers DRR planning and GBV sessions for the children who are 15 and above. And also women participation in most of these village level training program and awareness program and planning programs are from our observation more than 80% sometimes. So women are taking lead in attending these programs. And also we are supporting survivors through the providing dry ration, medical and legal support, funds for the temporary shelter, especially for the children. And we are also initiated need assessment on livelihood after the Ditto cyclone. So those are the areas we are working under these key thematic areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Savini. That was very interesting and very comprehensively. You have described how this framework has been used. So, thank you so much. If there's any question from our participants, I'd like to request them to write that in the chat box for now, and then we'll get back to the questions after the presentation from all the speakers. Yeah, so thank you so much once again, and we'll get back to you. So now moving on, I would like to request our next speaker, Ms. Surya Kumari Sunar. She is the program manager for Fight Extreme Inequality at Dan Church at Nepal. She is a committed advocate for gender equality and social inclusion with over 20 years of experience in the development sector. Having a wide range of experience working with multiple international organizations such as ActionAid, Safer World, SNV, CCI, World Vision, Windrock International, and DCA in different capacity, particularly focus on gender equality, social inclusion, GBV, and climate linkage, gender transformative program design and implementation, human rights, and governance. She is the active member of JESI working groups under Association of International Organization in Nepal, AIN, as well as Protection Cluster member under Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen. And today she will be sharing with us about DCA Nepal's approach in addressing GBV and gender considerations in their DRR and humanitarian works, and particularly focusing on men's engagement and promoting positive masculinity. Ms. Surya, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pritha, for my introduction. Good morning, everyone. I am working in DCA. Today, first of all, I would like to thank you, Gender Stakeholder Group and Durog Nivaran, first for this wonderful opportunity to sharing about the DCA work on humanitarian response and DRR preparedness, and especially I am going to focus on the DCA approach on GBV prevention, mitigation, and response program. And one of the tool that is Pirtha already shared the main engagement tools. DCA is humanitarian and development organization working in Nepal since 2008, and GBB prevention, mitigation, and response. It is under the protection theme, and it is most priority theme in the DCA humanitarian response program as well as DCA development program also. So now I would going to share about some approach that DCA taking to GBV prevention and response program. Pirtha, can you share my presentation?
Um, okay, just give me a minute.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Next slide, please. Yeah, regarding the gender-based violence, this year is present in different GBV prevention and response mechanism. Now, this year is the active member of the protection cluster, which is led by Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen. We are working under this mechanism at the federal level, and our partner organization DCA is working with the 12 partner organization, and among them 4 partner organization is women led organization. Those organization also representing in local and provincial level protection mechanism. Under the protection mechanism, GBB is one of the priority for the DCA and the implementing partner. Beside that, DCA is a technical member of the GBB subcommittee under the Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizenship. This committee is recently developed the GBB risk mitigation materials and to conduct the training. I am also the one of the member for this GBB risk mitigation committee. Beside that, Nepal government under the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee, it has already developed gender equality, disability, and social inclusion policy. And as a humanitarian organization, now DCA is prioritized to localization DOH policy in our working area, particularly in the municipality level. Next slide, please. Regarding the DCA and partner action on GBV prevention and mitigation in the emergency, our programming approach is awareness raising and community outreach program on the gender-based violence. It is not only the emergency situation or humanitarian response, it is the larger part of the gender-based violence response program under the DCA portfolio, because we consider gender-based violence is a huge human right violation issue, and this year country program is working on this issue since a long time. Similarly, we have working with the community-based group like women group, youth group, and community level disaster management committee, and this group is a safe mechanism to raise the issue of gender-based violence and protection mechanism for the woman. Likewise, our approach is another approach is advocacy on the gender equality and GBV related law and policy that from the local and national government, and we are advocating to implement those GBV related policy in the working area. Similarly, we also support system strengthening of the local government. Sometimes we have provided financial support for the construction and the running of the safe house. Safe house construction, which is directly linked with the GBV survivor access in the services. We are working in this area with our local partner, DWRF. Another this year approach is we are working with the women lead organization. I already mentioned we have now it's our four women lead organization. It is beneficial for this year to working with the women rights organization because they are promoting women leadership. They have experience how to address gender-based violence in the local level, so that our one approach is partnership with the local level women-led organization. Those organizations are now prepare emergency preparedness and response plan. This emergency preparedness and response plan also focusing on the women and local leadership promotion. Beside those, one of our project working on the Mahakali River Basin, that is mapping the household level disaster risk profiling and identify the vulnerable group. Under this vulnerable group, GBB survivor household also consider the vulnerable group. Next slide, please. Regarding the GBV mitigation in emergency situation, when the emergency or humanitarian situation is arise, at that time we conduct a rapid need assessment. At the rapid need assessment, we identify the safety risks for the women, girls, and other marginalized group. And in the assessment questionnaire, we put the GBV risk-related questionnaire include in the assessment. Based on the assessment finding, we already identified who are the potential risks in the GBV, and already the survivor of the GBV, those household and individual, we have been identified. Similarly, DCA conduct the training for the partner staff on GBV prevention and mitigation and prevention of sexual abuse, exploitation, and harassment in humanitarian situation. Another one of the important approach of the DCA is we are providing multi-purpose cash voucher assistance program while we are responding the humanitarian situation. The selection criteria include vulnerable group, pregnant lactating woman, single woman, woman-headed household, including GBV survivor also prioritized for the multi-purpose cash voucher assistance program. It is supporting GBV survivor to for safety and protect from the further violence. Another area is under the FCDO program. Now this year is supporting to the local government to construction the safe shelter. In the safe shelter, there is a specific woman-friendly safe space. There are separate facility for women. Now one shelter construction is completed and 5 shelter are under construction. The safe shelter also provide women for the safe space to sharing their experience about the gender-based violence risks and connect with the referral mechanism. These are our approach and the GBV risk mitigation. Next slide, please. Regarding the response program, DCA Nepal every year responding mini and mega disaster related emergency situation. When we are going to respond from the social perspective, first of all, we recruit and train psychosocial counselor in emergency response program at the partner level. Those psychosocial counselor provide psychosocial counseling support and connect to survivor in the referral mechanism. DCA is not the expert organization for directly handling the GBV response cases, so that we are more working on the referral pathway. This referral pathway include under crisis management center, safe shelter, judicial committee, and there is a one mechanism, human right help desk, which is promoted by the DCA partner organization, and the human right help desk provided the cash support to the GBV survivor. It is more about the accessing to the justice program, so that we are working with the different stakeholder for the referral pathway. Similarly, while we are working with the GBV survivor, we are promoting the survivor-centric approach. This means the survivor choice, survivor dignity, protection, and their right might be ensured during our response program. And I already talked about the cash voucher assistance program. This year, we have response the flood in eastern part of the Nepal. Among our response, there are 400 plus single women supported recently for the flood response and recovery support program. So that I would like to highlight it that single women also they are already the risk of gender-based violence and other GBV survivor are directly benefited from our program. Besides that, we also meet specific need of women, like providing dignity kit and Kishori kit for the women and girls.
Suryaji, please be
Yeah.
mindful about the time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I will move ahead. Please go in next slide. Next slide, please. So now I would like to share something about the main engagement to reduce the risks of GBV. Recently, we have piloting the main engagement under one project that is more focused on gender-based violence prevention and mitigation in the community forest user group in Koilali, which is the DWRF is the partner, which is the partner of the Durug Nivaran for the Sidra project also. In this project, we have identified 50 potential men who are seeing positive and willing to support for the women's rights, so that we identified the 50 potential male champion. And then we have hire a consultant and develop a guideline and tool for the main engagement. This is the practical tools. The tools is covering about the gender role, division of the gender responsibility, concept of the patriarchy and matriarchy, equality and equity, and positive masculinity and toxic masculinity, and how patriarchal norms impact to the men and boys. These are the main topics for the main engagement content. After this tool development, we have organized 5 days rigorous thought training to the potential male champion, and they have trained, and now those male champion in after this training, the male champion mobilized in the community level to discuss about the main engagement approach. Next slide, please. Uh, Regarding the main engagement approach to reduce the risks of GBV, this module is talk more about the create safe space for the men to express their feelings and emotion, because the patriarchal system limited to men and controlling men emotion, and the patriarchal system always shows men as a aggressive and controlling person, so that some of the men who are promoting the gender equality, they are also not feeling comfortable to sharing this their experience, so that the men engagement training, we have working with the one of the organization that called Hamidajubai. This is the feminist organization led by the male gender specialist, and they are working on these tools, and they also facilitate this training, so that I can say the main engagement training is facilitated by the male facilitator among the male champions, so that there is a somehow safe space among the men to share their feelings about gender-based violence and other their privilege and their limitation. This is one of the approach. And another approach is what we found that the main engagement, while we are talking about the main engagement, men have limited capacity and awareness about the gender-based violence, different form of gender-based violence, and how this gender-based violence impact on the families and community, so that our approach is awareness raising about the gender-based violence among the male champions, not blaming them about they are the perpetrator or they are creating the gender-based violence. Another approach is when we conduct the training, at that time we use the example of positive behavior, which is says positive masculinity, such as respectful behavior to the woman, caring and responsible sharing of the responsibility of the household work, not controlling or violent over the woman. Uh, and we are more focused on the GBV to everyday life, discussion about the GBV impact on the individual level, family level, and it also impact to the children's health of the woman and economic sustainability. Those components we have discussed during the training. Another important area is skill building, how men can promote the communication skill. In many cases, when we are talking about the gender-based violence, men used to justify the violence because these things, so that I committed violence, so that we discuss about the not justifying violence and control mechanism and non-violence behavior promotion, and how can men play a positive role for the problem solving. And now we are focusing on the start with small practical action, just like encouraging them for the simple behavior change aspect like household work sharing, respectful communication, and taking side when they saw the violence or violence behavior in their community. And last and most important thing is that engaging men in the GBV response program, it is more about the promote men age and allyship for the women's right and promote gender equality, because men already engage the various forum, and they have occupied decision making level in various levels, so that they will not take the woman spaces. So we should be more careful about the while engaging men. They are promoted as allyship, not taking the leadership role in the men engagement as tools of GBV risk mitigation. These are our approaches. Now, I would like to stop here. If there are any question or queries, we will be discussing later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suryaji. That was a very comprehensive and very insightful overview of DCA's approach. And yes, we talked about engaging men and positive, promoting positive masculinity, but you also shared beyond that, beyond men engagement, how DCA has been, applying different mechanism to address GBV, and I think that was all very helpful. And I think you rightly said men's engagement should complement gender equality efforts, and men should be encouraged to be an ally for the gender equality initiatives. And we should also be, we should also work towards raising awareness among men about how patriarchy affects both men and women. And this is all very important in this fight against GBV. So, yes, if you have any questions, please do write in the chat box for now, and we will be taking them. After a while, I can see a raised hand, but I would like to request you to please wait for a while because we have another speaker. I would like to welcome her and we'll hear from her, and then we will open this question and answer round. So I would like to invite Ms. Dilruba Haider from UN Women. Dilruba is an expert in the field of disaster risk reduction, climate change, humanitarian action, and gender equality, and she is heading the climate change DRR and humanitarian portfolio of UN Women Bangladesh, where she has been leading UN Women's efforts in policy influencing for gender responsive DRR and climate actions, as well as enhancing the resilience of the most vulnerable women, girls, and gender diverse groups. She has also been working at the headquarters of Asia Pacific regional offices of UN Women at various points over the last 12 years. She worked at FCDO as the disaster management focal point, managing flood, cyclone, and drought responses for 10 years, then joined UNDP as the assistant resident representative and managed the flagship DRR program. She was also a part time lecturer at BRAC University and also worked in Myanmar and in Bhutan at different initiatives. So I would like to request Ms. Dilruba to share her feedback on the tools and approaches just shared, and also share from your observation and experience. What do you think are some of the institutional gaps in mainstreaming gender-based violence in DRR and humanitarian system, and how can we address that to basically institutionalize GBV overall in the whole system? So yes, over to you, Dilruba, for your remarks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pritha. And thanks to huge thanks to Gender Stakeholder Group and AIDMI and Durjog Nivaran for organizing this webinar, because I think GBV is a sort of a passing subject when it comes to disaster management. We sometimes refer to that, but we don't necessarily work a lot on this. It's very heartening to learn about the initiatives that Savini and Surya have shared. I think, but generally speaking, as I said, not a lot is being done. I also want to, point out before I start with my formal remarks about this issue, is that when Sabini and Surya, both of them focused on men's engagement and in gender equality work, as well as this particular issue about GBV in emergencies. And just to, we all know, but I want to flag that gender equality is not about women. So therefore, definitely, most definitely, men has to be an integral part of gender equality work. Just to start with, before I go into the institutional things, just wanted to give you a few data information. The thing is, like in Mihir Bhai has already said at the beginning, that disasters amplify socioeconomic vulnerabilities and widens gender divide in terms of access to resources and asset ownership. And it exacerbates structural inequalities, hitting women and girls who are already disadvantaged and marginalized. In Bangladesh, 50% women aged between 15 and 27 are out of education, employment, and training. And most of them are actually already married by the age of 15. So the child marriage is high in South Asia and definitely in Bangladesh. And that already tells us the level of vulnerability that the women are facing and the inequality that the women are facing socially and economically. And 80% of women married aged 15 and above have experienced intimate partner violence, meaning they all are, we can, guess the suffering that they are suffering in silence, because only 7.4% of the women who are suffering from intimate partner violence have taken legal actions of the 80%. So you can see that women are suffering in silent in private, if you may. Compared to that, I think the women facing violence or surviving the violence outside or by people who are not intimate partners is quite low. So it's basically the intimate partner. So women facing violence inside home by their families, by their intimate partners. So, and in Cyclone Amphan that happened in Bangladesh in 2020, there's a report that we did we did a rapid gender analysis, UN Women. By the way, sorry, I am from UN Women. UN Women is the UN entity for gender equality and women's empowerment. In Bangladesh, we had done a rapid gender analysis in 2020, and it showed that 65% increase in gender-based violence after disaster. So generally, I mean, between cyclone and flood, which are very prevalent in Bangladesh, 65 to 74% of women have reported that there is an increase in violence in during and post-disaster situation. There is another very interesting thing, not interesting, sorry, a very bad thing, I must say, is in the shelter. People have talked about, the speakers, my previous speakers talked about shelter and the condition of women and the violence that happens in shelters. In shelters, we have heard adolescent girls talking about, not bathing for days, fearing that somebody might video them and circulate in social media while they are bathing. I mean, these are very nuanced things, but these are the things that's happening in shelters. So the safety and security in Bangladesh, in the shelter, especially the cyclone shelters, the ones that are being built or have been built over the last 5 to 10 years, now have separate quarters separate rooms for men and women, just to ensure that there are some protection. There are different or separate quarters of toilets for men and women. Still, women don't feel comfortable, and they are actually reluctant, especially women and adolescent girls. They are reluctant to go to shelters, fearing the kinds of violence and the violation of their dignity that happens in shelters. And 60% of adolescent girls lack access to menstrual health products during disasters. Sanitation situation is again very bad. Just to share an example, a few years back, in fact, in 2023, there was a bad flood, and we had gone to just to see the situation in the southwest coastal belt of the country. There was a cyclone. And when we talked with the government officials there, especially the health department officials, whether they have done anything for the menstrual hygiene and reproductive health care of the women and adolescent girls. And the way they reacted, as if they, we asked, we asked as if we asked a completely nonsensical question because they haven't completely thought about it. So when I said that, there are pregnant women, there are adolescent girls who have these reproductive needs and all that, and reproductive health care or menstrual health and hygiene materials which they require, the health, departments should be supplying those things. It completely, they gave me a blank face. And then gradually it registered, and they said, oh yeah, of course, there are women, we should be doing something. So it tells you the kind of mindset, the people, the officials who are delivering support to the affected community. So that's the kind of scenario against which we are operating. All the humanitarian, actors in this region are operating, and those are the basic things. Yeah, these are health issues, and then comes the protection issues: trafficking, forced labor, child marriage. All these are, that doesn't even come into any conversation, because in emergency people think that it's a life-saving matter, and GBV and these kind of issues like trafficking, labor, sexual abuse, these are not life-saving. Yeah, and therefore it's all the more harder for this kind of activities to be taken forward. Now, coming back to the question of yours about the institutional gap, in Bangladesh, we have a standing order on disaster, SOD, which the latest one, which of course ended in 2025, December, only last month, that one has captured the GBV issue. It does say that in shelters, the government needs to create the proper environment so that women are women are feeling safe, GBV doesn't happen, protect the women from that. All those are said. However, who does it? MOD, Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, they think that it's not their job. Their job is life-saving. Yeah. Ministry of Women and Children Affairs, they think disaster management is not their job. Ministry of Women, Ministry of Social Welfare, they think it's not their job. It's Ministry of Disaster Management, their job. So now nobody looks at this issue. So Ministry of Health, they don't think, I mean, their job is to, give medical, make sure that there are doctors, medicines, that's it. So these whole idea of giving support to women for ensuring their protection, protecting them from gender-based violence, giving them this reproductive and sexual, the whole issue of SRHR, it sort of falls through the crack. So the institutions, their mandate and their job descriptions, if you may, these issues are not there in any of the the institutions or government departments. It is there, as I said, in the policy instruments, in Standing Order on Disaster, in National Plan for Disaster Management. These things are mentioned, but it's not there. So what is...
Still about time.
Yeah, just 4 points I will make in terms of the recommendation. So how to make sure that these institutions and the action plans are addressing these issues. First, need of data. I think Mihir has already said about this, the lack of data. That's extremely, extremely important. Without the data, we can all tell the stories that women are facing this, women are facing that, adolescent girls are having this problem. But if we don't have concrete data, we cannot tell the policymakers to actually, you know, come up with action plans and invest in that. So, data is absolutely critical to collect the sex and age disaggregated data. We need a clearer and strong action plan uh, for prevention of gender-based violence during and post disaster situation with designated departments who will do it, very clearly saying what exactly they should do, who will do it. Third is we need capacity building of officials. Saying that you should do it is not enough. We have to build the capacity of the relevant officials so that they understand what it is that they have to do and know how to do it. And finally, the system reform. I'm saying system reform again. I'll end with the story. Again, going back to 2022, there was a bad flood in the northern part of the country, and when we went there and talked with the women about, and we were looking at the agricultural recovery, and the women said that we don't get any support from the agricultural ministry because we don't have any farmer card. So after disaster, if you don't have a farmer card, you can't access the government support. The government gives some incentive, some support, some recovery support to the farmers to recover, but the women don't have it. So there are some, institutional. Reform probably is a too hard a word, but some institutional system needs to be put in place so that women are properly supported and adequately supported. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a very comprehensive remarks, and like you said, GBV response I think should be institutionalized from a very upper level, higher level, so that it ensures support to women till the grassroots. So, thank you so much, Ms. Dilruba, for your remarks. And now we have got around 15 minutes. I'd like to request, if you have any question, to raise your hands and you can share your questions. Um, yes, I can see one hand. Jagat HM. Is that right? I'm sorry if I have not pronounced your name correctly. Please ask away your question. Hello? Hello? Your mic is on mute. Okay. Yes, yes, we can hear you now. Yes. Your yes.
Can't hear clearly. Can you speak up, please?
Yes, your voice is very small. A
Much
bit
better.
better. Yeah, much better.
have been identified as an issue. Then discharge protection and referral system also as the issue we have been identified. So my question to the agencies who are representing this particular aspect is uh, the referral system is the most noted gap in GBV prevention and response capabilities in our particular areas, mostly disaster affected, namely that Badulla, Numarelia, and Kandy districts. So, can you elaborate the referral system which have been adapted at this time by your organizations, mostly several organizations that present here in this particular sector. So that will be wonderful. That would be great for us to refer our particular officials to colleague with and then liaise with that referral system. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagat. I think that question goes for Surya. Ms. Surya, if you had mentioned in your presentation about the referral pathways and how you have been working applying that approach, could you please highlight a bit more?
Okay. Uh, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Regarding the referral system, uh, I would say it is not sufficient referral mechanism in the Nepal context, but there is a one mechanism which is called Ondor Crisis Management Center. This is the hospital-based facility, and it is based on the district and some of the local hospital all over the Nepal. It is more than 80 referral mechanism under crisis management center that is hospital based. In that mechanism, there are different stakeholders are engaging like health professional, legal professional, counselor services, Nepal police, some of the organization who are working on the GBV risk mitigation and response shelter home also is involved there. That is a certain mechanism to operate this under crisis management center. This is for particularly focused for the GBV survivor, not only humanitarian situation, other normal situation also this service provider is coordinating each one area. For the DCA and its partner, we have been working in this mechanism in some of the our working district, and we are working with this mechanism for the capacity strengthening in how the referral mechanism should like work and survivor centric approach while responding in the GBV cases. These kind of engagement we have done with this mechanism, but we still found this mechanism also have limited capacity and funding scarcity to operate fully. There are only 2-3 staff in this mechanism. That is about the under crisis management center. Beside that, we are working with the human right help desk. It is also it is also providing referral support for the GBV survivor. In that mechanism, there are government representative and some of the organization who are providing the free legal aid support. These mechanisms are available. And we are more supporting for the access to justice process, not directly responding the GBV survivor for the shelter and other things. That is our approach to work with the referral system in Nepal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
Ms.
very
Surya.
much. Thank you very much for the explanation.
Thank you so much for the question. Is there any other question? I have I saw one question in the chat box. It says, is there any projects that fund research works in Africa on GBV and climate change? This is from Fentahun. I think anyone, if you have any idea about any funding um, opportunity or mechanism, you may share with Fentahun.
If you would write an email, would be specific needs, we'll be very happy to do that.
Ye-
Thank you. And
Okay,
you can
thank
get
you.
the email from Duryog Nivaran. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I see another hand raised. Sarita ji, yes, you may ask the question. Hello? Sarita ji, we can't hear you. Yes, you have raised your hand, Sarita. Can you ask your question?
She is muted.
She's on mute, yes.
Yeah.
Um, okay, meanwhile, if there's any other question, you can raise your hand. I am not sure if her mic is not working. Okay. Looks like she cannot, she's on mute or she's not there probably. If there's no other question, um, okay. If there's no other question, then I would like to request Mr. Mihir once again to sum up the discussions and to give a concluding remarks, and then we'll proceed ahead with concluding the session.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes,
Uh,
very clear.
yeah, we had a bit of a problem and I had to shout, so I'm very apologetic if I'm shouting. I don't mean. I'm just trying to come across. So no, this was very useful discussion in two ways. One, it summed up what we know in the region, but also gave indicators of what we don't know and need to act upon. So I'll sort of do that in five key points about. I think the overall item is the gender-based violence in disasters. It's a governance failure, not a side effect in the region. So it's not something which happens on the side. It's actually we just fail as a governance. So the first thing is to have reframe gender-based violence as a core disaster risk research and policy in Asia Pacific, not additional, but a core disaster risk research and policy in Asia Pacific. And the action that is needed is position gender-based violence explicitly as a predictable disaster risk outcome, not a secondary social issue. So what is a disaster risk reduction? It reduces gender-based violence to zero. That's the action that is needed. And the follow-up action in the region is South Asia, Asia Pacific. This is Asia Pacific, so I'm covering that, is one that integrate gender-based violence indicators into disaster risk assessment, national DRR strategies, and send out reporting even more strongly, especially where it is not done in specific countries or specific responses. Second, commission comparative regional research documenting gender-based violence, escalating across hazards, floods, cyclones, earthquake, extreme heat, to establish gender-based violence as a measurable risk outcome urgently. And this is something that Duryog Nivaran perhaps can take a lead so that there is a regional um, uh, 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 evidence for that. And third is use this evidence to influence regional DRR platforms, but more importantly, national and sub-national disaster management authorities. So each disaster management authority, even at a district state level, has a gender-based violence as the main outcome of the recovery, not an additional outcome. So that's the first reframing. The second is combining and consolidating gender-based sensitive anticipatory action and early warning. A lot of work is being done on anticipatory action, early warning, but gender-based violence is not so much on the agenda. So we should be able to take anticipatory action to prevent gender-based violence, and we should be able to take anticipatory action, and we should be able to have early warning systems, which tells us clearly about gender-based violence, which is likely to come up. So the action here is, and I'm drawing from Surya Kumari's um, um, presentation, that extend anticipatory action beyond forecast and logistics to include protection, dignity, and safety outcomes. And the follow-up for Asia Pacific would be one, embed protection measures, safe shelters, lighting, privacy, report mechanisms into preparedness, financing, and early action protocols. So all financing for preparedness and early action must include early action for gender-based violence protection. Second action in the region is needed is documented scale pilots that show how early action can reduce violence before the crisis peak. And third, pilot projects of gender-based violence and sensitive anticipatory action triggers is, for example, around heat waves, around displacement, uh, threshold, livelihood loss. So that's the second. The third is rapidly close the data and accountability gap. I mentioned that. Dilruba Apa also mentioned that. And that is something, the action there is that end institutional silence by making GBV, gender-based violence, visible in disaster data, budget, and evaluations. Not as a separate data, but as a mainstream, all the data that's available should definitely clearly show gender-based violence to that. And not only in databases, but also in budgets, because unless there is budget, not much could be done about that. So the follow-up action for Asia Pacific would be mandate sex, age, and disability disaggregated data in post-disaster needs assessment and recovery monitoring, which is happening, but can happen far more strongly and far more rapidly. Second, support regional research partnerships to standardize GBV data collection in disasters by ensuring survivor safety and ethics. And that's something Duryog Niara and ADRR can do. And tie funding and recovering completion claims to evidence of protection and accountability, not only infrastructure or assets. So that's the three action areas. The fourth, and almost the last, is the I've drawn from Dilruba Appa from your that centralized livelihood recovery with gender-based violence prevention. The action needed is treat economic recovery as a protection strategy, not only an income strategy. And UN Women has wonderful work on that, which we can draw upon. The follow-up action for Asia Pacific would be promote integrated recovery frameworks where economic resilience and gender-based violence prevention are assessed together, not separately. Design recovery programs that explicitly address stress, unpaid care work, and income loss as gender-based violence risk factors. And third, fund research that tracks how different livelihood recovery models affect household safety over time. So these are the three actions to look at as a follow-up action: centralized livelihood recovery with gender-based violence prevention. And fifth and last is progressive disaster governance from neutrality to justice for victims. So we do have fairly neutral or fairly sensitive now disaster governance, not enough though, but we want it actually to move from that to very much in favor of the gender-based violence victims and how they get the justice from that. So the action is acknowledge that disaster governance choices actively shape who is protected and who is exposed. And we had very good examples from Bangladesh government standing order to start with. So the follow-up action in the Asia Pacific would be support regional dialogues that move disaster risk reduction from risk management to risk justice using gender-based violence as a governance litmus test. Second, invest in action learning platforms that bring women, survivors, local organizations, informal workers into disaster governance design. And three, document share governance reforms that reduce everyday risk for the last poor working woman, not only headline losses. And a good example again would be from Bangladesh standing order, why it should not be a standing order in all the South Asian countries. why it should not be a standing order in all the Asia Pacific countries. There is no reason. So how do we make that happen? That's the action. So I'd like to sum up by saying that learning lens for Asia Pacific is together these actions reinforce the central message that GBVM is gender-based violence in disasters is foreseeable, preventable, and governable. Research must make it visible, and action must make protection real before, during, and long after disasters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mihir. That was a very comprehensive and very tangible steps that you have suggested on integrating GBV response. And with that, we have also come to the end of our session. So I would like to conclude the session by saying thank you so much. Specifically, special thanks to our speakers, Mr. Mihir, Ms. Savini, Ms. Surya, and Ms. Dilruba for your time. Even before, like from the preparation phase to now, thank you so much for putting your efforts and making this discussion very enriching. And also thank you to all the participants who joined the session. And thank you so much. We will definitely be sharing the PowerPoints and the recording and any other resources. If you want to get to know more about their approach or the tools and about the points that were discussed today, you can reach out to me and I will help you connect with the speakers as well. So yes, thank you so much. And with that, I would like to share that the session is over. Yes, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Surya
much.
Kumari. Yes. And also Tikshana and Danushi, thanks for all the work and support that you have offered. This was not possible at all without both of you.
Yes, thank you to the team as well. All right. Thank you so much.
Caroline, thanks for joining. Yeah. Danushi, of course.
Thank you, Mihir. Yes, Sam.
Joanne, Camille, thank you. Ocampo. Yeah.
Thank you.